Good evening, everyone. It's Necro Thursday, and I'm here with Mike Stendahl to bring you Necromaniacs, the premier horror podcast, alongside Horror Wolf. How's it going, Mike?
I am well. How are you, Mike?
Doing good. Staying busy. We're grinding out these episodes. Just trying to stay on schedule with everything. Gearing up for the tour. We leave in a few days, and I don't even feel like I hasn't even, I feel like just nothing's happening. Like I just every day is the same.
Hmm.
And then suddenly I'm like, oh damn, I have only a few days to get ready and pack and get all my shit together. And so
Yeah.
it's interesting.
Well, I'm excited for the listeners who may not know. Mike Hill's excellent metal band Tombs is going out on tour around mid-February with Nunslaughter and Profanatica. It's going to be a sick little tour. If it comes to your town, go see it. But normally, sometimes when Michael's on tour or there's other issues, we will take a bit of a vacay on the show. But we're happy to say that we are not doing that this time. That we will be coming at you every Thursday while the tour is a rolling. Isn't that right, Mike?
Yeah, with the three of us, I figured we can get it done.
Mhm.
Everything went black. There's going to be a couple of weeks where I'm going to run some from the vault episodes. You know what I mean? I
Right,
just
right, right. Best ofs, best ofs.
Yeah, best ofs. Like I just didn't have enough time to really keep that thing going on track every week. But there's going to be episodes every week. Just that two of them are going to be episodes that I would normally only have on the Patreon. So they're old ones, but something that has not been in the mainstream just yet. So that should be at least good for some of you guys.
Nah, sure, man, sure. But I'm stoked for you. The tour hits Brooklyn, New York towards the end of the run in March.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll be there. Should be a fun night. And yeah, look it up, kids. The Tombs Nunslaughter Profanatica tour, East Coast into Midwest. Mike, what would you say the kind of run it is?
I'm gonna say it's pretty exclusively East Coast with some Canadian dates, and I'm
East
stoked
with
about the
Canadians.
Canadian.
All right. Okay,
Yeah, stoked about going to
gotcha.
Montreal. Montreal is always a cool town to play in.
Nice, nice. So yeah, go check them out when they come to your town. Um, let's see, what have I been checking out? I'm continuing on my Sopranos run. I am on season five, episode three. And like I've mentioned before, I think I forgot just how vile Tony Soprano is, Michael. He's not a good man. No, not a good guy.
Yeah, it's like you kind of romanticize the characters, in
Hmm.
general. And
Yeah.
then when you go back, especially, people like you and I have probably seen that entire show like many times over. And then the deeper you go
Hmm.
in, you realize you see all the quirks, even like Carmela too. You see like how no one is really a good guy. Christopher Moltisanti, like no
Oh
one's good.
yeah. Like I don't feel bad for Carmela Soprano. I don't feel bad for her. Like when Tony is doing, doing his mob boss thing and his gallivanting, as they say, like she, I don't know. I find it hard to feel bad for her as a woman who has chosen the life that she has chosen. She's been with him since they were teenagers, for fuck's sake. She knew what his father did. She knows what he does. You know what I'm saying? It's like the empathy level for her is low. The only character I am literally feeling bad for, and that I honestly think that I could say is a fairly good character, is Drea Di Matteo's character. Because not because I fancy her, because I feel like, look, she's never murdered anyone. She's never like she's not, I don't know. I don't think she's intentionally harmed or screwed anyone over like throughout her tenure on the show. What do you think?
I agree that she is and pretty much an innocent. I mean, she's just like a regular Jersey chick, she's just a North Jersey girl, and she got wrapped up with the wrong people, and good-hearted, good-natured, like nothing nefarious about her. And I would say Charmaine too. Like Charmaine's a little salty, but she also is you know, pretty much like just a regular person, you know.
Yeah, I mean, look, everybody has a bit of culpability, right? But I find myself empathizing with you know, maybe a few other of the female characters on the show. I mean, women are really not treated well on the show, and it's weird. Like, even though, look, I have seen it, I remember it, but I think maybe I didn't remember certain aspects, and it's just like, wow, man, it's like this gets very harsh. And I guess I kind of forgot how harsh it gets. No.
Definitely, it's something. I think I watched it twice last year, like its entirety. Like
Okay.
my Tina, my girlfriend, she grew up in that same area that the show takes place in. So for she's a specialist, like an expert on all things soprano.
Hmm.
And so that's something that we put on. Like we earlier in the year made an effort to watch the entire thing from front to back. And then it was just something that we would have on sometimes. You know what I mean? Like before we went to bed or something like that. It would be like sort of playing. So I think we did watch it almost, I think, twice through last year in 2023.
Nice. Like Christopher and Silvio are also demons. Like they kill a waiter for no reason at all. Like because the waiter
Yep.
was questioning the tip. Like they just shot him. Like wow. It was just I don't know. Maybe it's really been much longer than I thought since I've seen the show. But when you think of Sopranos, I guess you think of these, cuddly caricatures, like you said. Like you think of these. You think of a different I don't know, it's coming from a different place, but no, these are very, very bad men doing very bad things. And yeah, it's almost got these rather horrific elements to it.
Definitely. The show is still is genius. I think it's a work of art. I think in the thread you referred to it as like the Black Sabbath of modern television or something like that.
Yes, it is the Black Sabbath of modern day television. Absolutely. It comes before everything. It's before Mad Men. It's before Breaking Bad. It's before Walking Dead. It's before Game of Thrones. It's before, all of its contemporaries, and yeah, it changed television, and you can definitely see why. So yeah,
I'm going to say that if The Sopranos is the Black Sabbath of modern TV, I'm going
mhm.
to say that Oz is the Deep Purple of modern television.
Yeah, that's good. That's very good. Poor
Yeah.
Oz. People forget about Oz, but you're right. Oz was HBO's Sunday night, anchor at one point, and that show got very strange towards the end. But that was a lot of fun too. But
Yeah, that
yeah, for
one's
the
so it's kind of unsung. It's been eclipsed by the success and notoriety of The Sopranos.
oh, totally. So for the three listeners who haven't watched Sopranos yet, yeah, go watch that hot new show, Sopranos. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Mike? What have you been checking
Well,
out?
the new Curb that
Mhm.
premiered. So Sunday nights, at least for now, is a double feature of True Detective season 4 and Curb. So
Right.
that's pretty cool. And been once again attempting to watch True Blood, not by
Hmm.
my on my own device, but once again through the urgings of my better half, Tina.
Uh-huh.
She's a huge fan of True Blood, and I've rejected that show all these years, and I'm being dragged into the orbit of True Blood once again. So we're
Well,
about almost done with the first season right now.
I gotta tell you, True Blood's a good show. It's a lot of fun. Um, there's cool characters on it. I watched it. I didn't like finish it, but I saw that final episode kind of a bit out of order. Those first few seasons are really good. So yeah, enjoy seeing True Blood for the first time. I kind of envy you because it's just fucking fun. It's got some horror, it's got some sex, it's got some comedy. It's a fun show.
It's like I've never made it out of the first season. Like I've seen it before, But I've never made it out of only the first season. So now this is like the furthest I've been into it is with this time around. So we'll see how it goes. I was enticed into it because she told me that there's werewolves in it. So I'm like, okay,
Yes,
well, I'll stick around for the werewolves.
yes, there are, and it's another show that helped honestly put HBO kind of on the map. It was a very, very successful show for HBO. So, yeah. Um, wow, I haven't thought about True Blood in a while, so that might be something I might take a trip down memory lane and watch. Um, but yeah, it's funny. Stella and I have been watching Scooby Doo episodes, believe it or not. Uh,
Great.
just like a mix of the old ones, and then there's a whole bunch of new ones, like Max, HBO Max, or whatever you'd like to call it, has all these different Scooby-Doo series, and they're just kind of fun to kind of watch at the end of the night and just kind of want to chill. And yes, there is a horror element to pretty much every episode, so it's kind of fun.
I used to love Scooby Doo when I was a kid. I'd like to revisit that now that I know it's on Max. I'll check it out.
Yeah, there's all sorts of Scooby-Doo. There's like a plethora of Scooby-Doo material to watch on Max, like going from like the old stuff all the way like, 80s, 90s, 2000s. It's like, yeah, they got a lot of interesting stuff. But yeah, and then of course, aside from all that, I've just, you know, been listening to like a bunch of other podcasts. Like I listen to a lot of, comedy podcasts. Like I don't know if you ever heard of Kill Tony. You ever heard of that? Tony Hinchcliffe, the comedian. He's a Texas guy. He's really funny.
Yeah, I
And
mean, I don't like I don't know what it is about comedians. I just don't fucking like them, man. I don't know.
Mike Hill hates comedy. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right, listeners. But you do like Curb Your Enthusiasm. So that almost kind of balances it out, though, I feel like. You enjoying
A
Curb.
long time to get to it, man. You know what I mean?
Mm.
But dude, it's like it's one of the most right on shows I've ever seen, So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I thought the first episode of Curb was a lot of fun. Looking forward to seeing where this final season goes. But we're going to talk we got to talk a little bit about the elephant in the room, which is True Detective season 4.
I got
As of this episode, the fourth episode of True Detective has aired, and I would just like to say that for 2 episodes in a row, I pretty much only enjoyed the last 5 to 10 minutes of the program. Um, there are only 6 episodes in this season, kids, so they have 2 episodes to turn the ship for me. What are your thoughts, Mike Hill?
dude. I was pretty descriptive in the thread about how I felt. and
Yes, yes, in a private setting. We're just not happy with this season. Look, I, I'm hoping that there is a season 5, and I'm hoping that Nick Pizzolatto returns and takes things in a bit of a different direction. On paper, this should be a wonderful season. I mean, I love Jodie Foster, but I feel like she's a bit lost here and kind of underutilized. Or maybe it's not that it's underutilized. I just feel like the script isn't very good. It started good. I kind of enjoyed that first episode quite a bit, and then it proceeded to just not get better. Like, no, you know?
Yeah, I agree. It's a really disappointing. But yeah, Tina Johnson just stopped in to say hi. Hi, how's it
Oh,
going?
hey.
Yeah. She's all embarrassed now. Hey, everything worked out okay downstairs? All right, great. Um, I 6 episodes, they spend way too much time on everyone's personal life. There's no
Yeah.
the story is interesting, right?
Hmm.
The story is very compelling, but they don't tell the story. We're focused on the wrong things. And I really I'm kind of sick of it, to be honest.
Yeah, like that first episode with the scientists and the disappearing and then them ending up all dead. That was
Dude,
good. That was so good. Okay,
wasn't
we've
even
got
in
two
the
episodes
entire
left.
last episode, didn't even talk about the scientists, and
I
there's only two
know.
episodes
It's
left.
like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? Like, I just, too many characters I don't care about. I want to know about the scientists. I want to know, like, hopefully these questions get answered, you know? Um, but I think, I know, Mike, you plan on a bit of a deeper dive, I think, into True Detective season 4. But just wanted to bring it up a little bit tonight because, we're rooting for it. We love True Detective, you know?
Yeah, dude. I tell you what, that Oz Perkins movie that's coming out later this year, Long Legs,
Mm.
based on the trailer, that's what True Detective season 4 should look like.
Yeah, it's missing something. It's missing the kind of creepiness. It's missing like that vibe that even season 2 had that vibe that I think it did. I mean, everyone's kind of starting to reevaluate season 2 when here I am liking season 2 from the moment it started. Um, one of the very few people, I guess. But, you know, season 3 was very good. I don't know. I feel like one day all will be revealed about what maybe went on behind the scenes with season 4, but we definitely don't have those answers yet.
Pizzolatto, I think, is kind of pissed. There's a little bit of an exchange between him and Issa Lopez, I believe, on the internets. So
Yes. Oh no. I mean, I don't know. Look, I'm a fan, and like I said, I want the show to do well. I want a season 5. Like I don't want shit to get fucked up that there's no season 5, Mike Hill.
but you know what, dude? They keep missing the mark, you know?
Mm.
I don't know.
We'll see. 2 more episodes to make us eat our words here at Necromaniacs podcast, but we will see. I think it's time for the plugs.
That's right. So kicking off the week, every other week, that is, we have Horror Wolf 666 brought to you by Brandon Legion. And I just got some breaking news from Brandon that he and I are going to hang out on this tour. So I'm going to be
All
able to see
right.
him in person on tour when
Mm.
I play close to his town down in the south there, and I'm looking forward to seeing him in person. This is one of those occasions where we're in the same space, which I enjoy.
Nice. I love that. When it's like, it's like that Justice League meetup, when everyone gets together.
Right.
Um, coming to you on Tuesday. Why it's Jackie Smith's own Into the Necrosphere. This week he's got that suffocation interview, which I have not checked out as of yet, but I know I will get to it. For all of your extreme metal needs, every Tuesday, Into the Necrosphere. Coming at you on Wednesday, we have Mike Hill's very own Everything Went Black episodes. What's coming up for Everything Went Black this week, or should I say next week?
Next week we have another Darkness Weaves episode with Carl Hikara, another fellow horseman. We'll get to him later, and
Mhm.
so that's going to be coming up next week. And then there's a couple of from the Vault greatest hits episodes for the following 2 weeks because just was not able to get the content out there, trying to keep on top of everything while I'm away. So that's going to be some stuff that's on the Patreon originally from the earlier last year that you guys in the regular stream have not heard it. So it's new to you, but it won't be
Right.
new to everyone from Patreon. So
Very
apologies.
cool.
Yeah.
On Thursday, it's the Necromaniacs podcast. While you're listening to it right now, coming at you every Thursday, the greatest horror podcast in the land. Who do we got on Friday, Mike Hill?
Brother John Draper bringing us Spitball Media, and that's on Friday. And how's John doing, man? It's like I check in, listen to him, but how's he doing?
He's doing good. I haven't seen him in a bit, but I think he's due for a visit down south soon. When I say down south, I mean good old Brooklyn. Um, but yeah, he is doing well. We of course also talk about True Detective quite a bit. We talk about lots of TV and movie stuff all the time, via DMs and texts. So yeah, John is doing well. I'll tell him you send your best. Um, on Saturday, take the day off, go out, have some fun, have some food, some drinks, be around your friends and family. But on Sunday, make sure you are back. Why is that, Mike? Why should they be back on Sunday?
Paul Hikara delivers the second episode of Saul Knox on
Mm,
Sundays.
that's right.
He's deploying twice a week, Thursday and Sunday. And yeah, if you're into like darkness, the occult, that sort of thing, definitely check out Carl's show. He's got interviews with really cool people on there. He also is involved with me in this Darkness Weaves collaboration where we talk about Carl Edward Wagner's short stories and eventually novels. And right now, we're talking about the Kane short stories. So if you like dark fantasy, sword and sorcery, tune in and listen in and discover Kane by Carl Edward Wagner.
Excellent. And then we have the final horseman who comes at you at his own pace. And we are talking about, of course, Cheyenne of Trivax, right, Michael?
Right. And you brought up the fact that he does sound like a character from a sword and sorcery story.
Yes, he does. Well, if you say his name like that, Cheyenne of Trivax, that's when it sounds like it's coming from, perhaps a Conan novel. You know what I'm saying? Like that. But see, I don't have a cool name like that. I mean, I can only hope to have a name that sounds that cool, you know.
Our names are not epic like Cheyenne's.
Diane of Trivax. Yeah, like
Yeah.
Mike from Inhuman. That's not as cool sounding, like Cheyenne of Trivax sounds literally like dialogue from an Arthur E. Howard book, It's
Yeah.
kind of cool, right?
And his show is called Iblis Manifestations, and he's killing it. So definitely check it out. And that's the whole crew, man.
That's right. Make sure you support the crew, the horsemen. Hit that subscribe button on all these shows. And yeah, we thank you for your support, as they say. We've got some phone calls this week, kids. We have two for tonight's episode, right, Mike?
That's right. And it's actually a milestone episode for us because we have the first lady caller. We've got April from Pittsburgh.
Hmm.
Hi, this is April from Pittsburgh. I just finished watching the Scandinavian movie called Sick of Myself. It was pretty good. It reminded me of like a David Cronenberg meets Harmony Korine. It was pretty crazy. I wouldn't say it was horror, but it's pretty horrific, interesting. I also recently watched the series on Showtime called The Curse. Also not really horror, but really weird, and wondering if anyone's checked either of these out. I don't know anyone else who's watched either. Really enjoyed the last two episodes. Totally agree with everyone's reviews. All right. See ya.
So thanks a ton, April, for calling in. Appreciate the call. I have not heard of Sick of Myself. Have you heard of that, Mike?
No, I have not, but it does sound like a good hardcore band name. Um, I have not heard of that movie or a great song title, Sick of Myself. I like it. It sounds cool though. Scandinavian horror, that could be in our up our dark alley, as they say. But yeah, I'll check it out.
And then The Curse on Showtime. Like that's something I've been wanting to see. I know a lot of people have been talking about that, and I definitely want to make some room for that show. It's got it just sounds it's a Safdie Brothers production, I believe.
Yeah, it's not horror, but it is weird. I heard that it gets weird and uncomfortable and a little dark. Um, I think John Draper told me to watch that show, and then somebody else at my job told me to check that show out. So yeah, you know what? I think when The Sopranos run is done, that rhymed. I think I'm just going to check out The Curse because it sounds really cool.
Next up, we got Stuart from the Bay Area calling in, and he's a return caller. So great hearing from you, Stuart.
Yeah.
What's up, Necromaniacs? This is Stuart calling from the Bay Area in the middle of a big storm here. I really enjoyed the trauma episode. That's a movie I've seen many times. I didn't really make the connection with the girl dancing at the end in the ending credits, so that was a pretty cool fact. I did actually go and buy that Vinegar Syndrome Blu-ray after I listened to the episode, so it was pretty fun to rewatch that movie. Lately, I've been watching a lot of older Spanish horror movies, particularly films by Paul Naschy. He's kind of a cool writer-director. He used to be a champion weightlifter before he was making movies. You guys familiar with his films? He's kind of all over the place. He has a number of movies where he plays a werewolf named Vladimir Deninsky, I believe. Also been watching the Tombs of the Blind Dead films by Armando de Osorio. Probably butchering that name. Have you guys seen any of those? Those are pretty cool. I really like the first two of them. They're kind of surrounding undead knights that return. Definitely got a really cool sort of theme music going when the knights are around. Also checked out a movie called Who Can Kill a Child, which is another Spanish film directed by Ibanez Serrador, which is, again, I'm not very good at pronouncing names, but it's a really cool movie. It's about, a killer kids on an island. He also made a film called The House That Screamed, which is really good too. It's more of like a gothic horror. Then Severin Films put out the Blu-ray of his show. I believe it's called Tales to Keep You Awake. I haven't watched that yet. I have it. I watched part of it. It's kind of got a Twilight Zone vibe. It's pretty cool. So I was just wondering if you guys are familiar with the older Spanish horror films, and do you have any favorites? Anyways, looking forward to Necro Thursday as always, so I'll catch you guys later. Bye.
Awesome. Glad you dug Trauma. And, I know that Mike and I really dig Argento, obviously, once we get into today, the last couple episodes.
Yes.
But yeah. And Mike, I know that you're also a Paul Naschy fan, right?
Yes. Friend of the show, Mark Yoshitomi turned me on to Paul Naschy. We have never done any of his films, and I think we should. We're going to remedy that, Yeah, he's a big werewolf guy, Mike Hill, Paul Naschy. So I think you would enjoy a lot of his content. He's done a bunch of other stuff too, but he's definitely like, one of the big guns of Euro horror. He's a journeyman in that he often stars and directs in pretty much all of his movies, almost, or quite a few of them. But yeah, he's got a ton of stuff under his belt. I would say some go into varying degrees of quality, but there's definitely some cool stuff. And thanks for putting in my head the idea of doing a Naschy film, Stuart. And of course, thank you to Stuart and April for the call and for the support. We're not the biggest show on the block, kids, Necromaniacs. We've been around a decade now, but we are ad-free, we are corporate-free, and we do this literally on our own free time for the love of movies. But I just want to say we appreciate each and every single one of you, right, Mike?
Yeah, definitely, man. Oh yeah, Paul Naschy. There's that Shout Factory. I think it's a 2-volume collection that's out there. I have one. I don't know if it's the first or the second one. I believe Night of the Werewolf is on that. So that might be
Yeah,
the second volume.
a lot of good stuff to cover, and I may even defer to Mark as to which film to cover, because he knows quite a bit about Mr. Naschy. But yeah, definitely cool stuff for the future.
Mike, you're a fan of Who Can Kill a Child, right? That's a movie that I have not seen that, but
Yeah.
that's something that, yeah.
I own the original. It was remade. The remake isn't that bad actually, but the original packs quite a punch. I think you would dig it too, Mike. Excellent Spanish horror film. It's kind of like Spain's Children of the Corn, but I don't know, a decade before Children of the Corn, and like way kind of like better in a way.
Yeah, it's something that's been on my it's been in the to be watched pile for a while, so I got to definitely get to that.
Yeah, you'll dig it, and yeah, definitely Necromaniacs worthy. Yes.
So that brings us to our feature, which is the Stendahl Syndrome
Yep.
by the maestro Dario Argento, released January 20th, 1996.
Mm. Yeah, this was another hit in Italy, at least for Dario. Um, Grossing 5.4 million lire, which is almost about 4 million in US dollars, again in 1996 money, for a budget of about 3.8 million. Um, it had a big theatrical release. And again, by like 96, I would say this was among one of Dario's final kind of hits in Italy. And of course, the second film to star his lovely daughter, Asia. Um, yeah, the interesting thing right out of the bat, though, is that Daria is in this film. She's about 20, I believe, making this movie. And, she's playing like a seasoned police detective, a little young for a police detective. Would you agree, Michael?
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely she's a she's like a 20-year-old detective, you know.
20-year-old police detective. Might be a little bit of a reason for that, and I'm coming out with the fun facts right out of the gate, is that the original star of this movie was none other than Bridget Fonda, um, who dropped out of the film at the start of production. Jennifer Jason Leigh was considered to be her replacement. She also could not or did not want to do the film. And then, of course, Dario lands on his daughter, Asia. So, very interesting. Part of me could almost have seen Bridget Fonda in this movie. What about you?
Yeah, but I can also really see Jennifer Jason Leigh killing it as
Mm,
Detective Anna Manny.
hmm.
But Asia Argento is iconic in this role, though.
Yeah, she does a great job for someone pretty much quite new to being to carrying a film, I would say. Of course, prior to this, she did Trauma about 2 years prior, and she had small roles in Demons 2 and The Church, but those were really small roles. And then, of course, after this, she does the Phantom of the Opera remake that Dario does, and then later on, she does Mother of Tears and Dracula 3D, etc., and has her a very pretty stellar horror and indie career of her own. But this is very early on in her career, and I actually think her acting ability is really solid here, Mike. No?
I agree. I mean, because she plays like different aspects of the same person in this film,
Yep.
and each aspect is a little bit different too. So she's able to convey that in her acting, which is
Mm,
definitely like required for this role.
no, absolutely. Run down the cast before we go further. As we said, Al Argento as Detective Anna Manny, Thomas Kretschmann as Alfredo Grossi. Worth mentioning, Thomas Kretschmann has gone on to do a shit ton of movies. Um, However, many in America may know him from his two Marvel films, Mike Hill. Are you aware that he is Baron von Strucker in Captain America's Winter Soldier and Avengers Age of Ultron?
No, I did not know that.
Yes. Um, and he plays Dracula he plays Abraham Van Helsing in the Dracula TV series from 2013 in the UK. He is in Dracula 3D as Dracula, Argento's Dracula 3D. He's in Hostel Part 3. Just a ton of movies, both American, English, German, Italian. So he's done quite a bit after his little stint in Stendahl Syndrome. How about that?
Knew he'd done stuff. I didn't realize to that extent, though.
Yeah, yeah. His Wikipedia is insane. I was like, holy shit, man. Um, we have Marco Leonardi as Marco Longhi, Luigi Deperti as Inspector Minetti, Paolo Bonicelli as Dr. Kavanaugh, and Julian Lambrowski as Marie Berlet. Um, yeah, I mean, honestly, the movie is really centered around Asia's detective Anna Mani, who's a police detective in Italy. Um, Basically, she's a cop who travels to Florence, Italy, on the trail of a serial rapist and murderer, Alfredo Grossi, of course, played by Thomas Kretschmann. Now, this Giallo is very interesting in that for about 90% of the film, well, we know who the killer is, right, Mike?
Right. I was going to bring that up, that it's not a typical Giallo because there's no glove, there's no hat,
Mhm.
and you know who the killer is pretty much right away.
Yes, there is no mystery until the last 10, what is it, 10, 15 minutes of the movie, where there's
Yeah.
quite a twist. And of course, we're going to spoil it. Spoiler alert, it's an old film. Um, and it becomes a bit of Giallo. Um, but yeah, by and large, this is basically like it's a serial killer movie slash thriller, but it's not super Giallo for Giallo, but it does, it falls under the modern Giallo blanket, right?
The end, it's kind of it dips into that region or in the
Mhm.
last segment of the film basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing worth noting, aside from the whole Bridget Fonda, Jennifer Jason Leigh angle, is that it is apparently the first Italian film to use CGI ever. How about that? Back in when it was filmed in 1995. Um, there is a well, there are several CGI scenes. There's a very big set piece in the beginning involving going underwater and a fish, uh, where Asia kisses this very large grouper fish. The fish, was not real, but apparently they did actually film completely underwater for that sequence, Mike.
Yeah, the movie's kind of trippy too, like, and especially in the beginning,
Mhm.
where she's looking at artwork and she's in museums, and there's these dreamy segments of that part, which very Argento, like that the museum
Yes.
scenes. And when
Yeah.
she hallucinates being underwater, that's also very Argento. And of course, there's like this kind of sleazy, like sexy sort of vibe with the
Of
fish
course.
and all this stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, in a way, you don't even know why that even happened, but that's, of course, there's always at least one animal scene in every single one of Argento's films. This is the one animal moment, and it involves a fish. So, and it's underwater. But yeah, those very interesting painting scenes utilize some very early CGI for Italian filming, and it was one of the first times that they ever did that in an Italian film, apparently. And the opening shot in Florence's Uffizi Gallery, it was also the first time that gallery ever allowed anyone to make a movie inside of it. So Dario had some clout, huh, Mike?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he was kind of like a big deal around this time. So, he had access to certain things.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the Stendahl syndrome is a real thing. It's when someone gets very overcome in like this kind of psychotic, psychofuge state by works of art that could involve rapid heartbeat, fainting, confusion, possibly hallucinations. The affliction is named after 19th century French author Stendahl, who described this experience in an 1817 visit to Florence in a book that he wrote that you can read called Naples and Florence, A Journey from Milan to Reggio. And yeah, apparently this is a real thing, Michael. How about that?
It's pretty much all there in the beginning. You see, she's in the being overwhelmed by the artwork, and art plays a big part of this film. Obviously, connecting with the disorder. But that's how Alfredo Grossi is able to victimize Anna, because he sort of like slickly like rolls up to her and he's like, "Oh, I see that you feel this artwork,"
Yeah, I mean, well, look, the thing is this, Grossi, we'll guess we'll refer to him as Grossi, the killer.
Yeah.
He's already, you know, he's up and killing by the time the movie starts. That's why he's being investigated by the police, and that's why Asia is on his trail. Um, but Asia has not quote met him yet, basically, and is kind of just on the hunt for him. She has her psychotic episode in the beginning of the movie in the thing, and then he kind of comes up as this kind of good citizen to her, right?
Handsome guy,
Oh
Teutonic,
yeah,
good looks, well dressed,
yes, blonde,
dazzles her a little bit,
right? Yeah, he dazzles her. Um, and well, kids, unfortunately, he kidnaps her for the first of two times in this movie, right, Mike?
Imagine getting kidnapped by the same person twice.
Yes. And gonna put the trigger warning out there. She is raped by him pretty brutally, both times she is kidnapped by him. And you have to say, Argento he's not a conventional dad. Would you
Oh no.
agree, Bill? Hmm.
He's put her in actually several of his daughters in these very
Yeah.
compromising positions.
I mean, not, my chuckle was not at rape. It was at the kind of dad Dario Argento is. Um, However, upon further investigation for the more severe graphic scenes, a body double was used in this film. Mike, how about that?
That's a relief, actually.
Yes, that is a relief. Yes, we do know that Asia is very much a physical actress and very much an edgy, I'll do whatever I want actress. But apparently, in some of the really more harsher moments of the movie, of which there are a few, listeners, it is in fact a body double. Um, so yeah, he kidnaps her, and early on in the first time where he kidnaps her, he actually manages to have yet another woman, that he's sexually assaulting next to her. And there's this very wild special effects scene where he shoots the woman in the cheek and the bullet goes through her cheek. And, it's just this very kind of close up where they show close up of the bullet and close up of the bullet hole. What do you think of that scene, Mike?
Well, it was very, very Italian. You know what I mean? Like there was
Yeah.
something about it that was so typically Italian, the way it was
Hmm.
shot, with the bullet going through the cheek. It's like something that you would see in an Argento film or a Fulci movie, you know. And I thought it was cool, even though it does look a little dated. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then there's the scene where he looks through the bullet hole of the woman's face and with his eye, and that was just really kind of creepy. It's funny watching this for the second time. I had recalled that scene, and I was literally almost maybe 18 years removed from watching it for the first time, or more, maybe 20 years was the last time I actually watched this whole movie. Um, and I had kind of forgotten about just how graphic the movie gets, Mike.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. This is one of the sleazier movies. It definitely goes into some places in the Argento catalog for sure.
Yeah. Um, Asia's character Anna does manage to escape her killer, but she's left deeply traumatized. Um, and this is where we get, as Mike said, there are different kind of personalities of Anna in the film. If the first personality is a police detective, the second personality is a bit more of a victim slash survivor mode character, huh?
Yeah, she's got short hair. She's dressed sort of very modestly, baggy
Mhm.
clothes, that sort of thing. And
Yeah,
has been turned off to having sex,
with
for
her
obvious
boyfriend,
reasons.
right? Hmm. She's kind of dating this other a police officer, and she's seemingly not that into him anymore. And you really do kind of feel for her character at this point, especially after all the horrific shit she's gone through very early on in the film. But sure enough, Grossi, man, he's quite the savage. He manages to track her down once again, like I said, abducts her for a second time and brings her to like this, underground kind of like there's like these graffiti everywhere, and she's strapped to a mattress. And again, it gets very harsh, and she has like these chains on her wrists and on her ankles. Um, and there's a scene where he kind of leaves her for a while, and all the graffiti comes to life. That was a really sick scene, huh?
Yeah, it's once again go back into the Stendahl sort of syndrome
Hmm.
aspect of this, where I guess the graffiti as artwork was causing her to react and have these hallucinations. You know what I mean?
Right,
And
like, mm,
there's something very dark about that whole segment, that makes me think about some movies that come out later that were a little bit more extreme,
mm,
where there's like a woman abducted in some, dank, you know, dungeon-esque location and bound and, sort of detained and
mm,
by a rapist. And
mm.
this guy goes about his day and returns and just does his thing. It's just really dark. The whole vibe of that part of the film is just sort of disturbing and dark.
Yeah, absolutely. It might this might be one of his harshest movies, period, actually, if you really think about it. However, finally Anna turns the tables, and there's this great scene where she uses like these kind of like metal clasps and clips as she breaks free and just jabs them into either side of what do you call it, Grossi's neck. I mean, there's a lot of blood in this movie. There's a lot of gore. It gets very graphic. She beats the living shit out of him. She fucking takes out one of his eyes. And since they're near a river, she like manages to drag him and basically kick his limp body basically over like a cliff, over like a river into the water, you know. Um, and police kind of basically surmise that he's dead. I mean, honestly, I thought he was dead. He seemed pretty fucking dead. She beat the shit out of him. I mean, it was a very high, cliff that she kind of kicks him off of. And then things kind of take a turn in Anna's life. She starts wearing a very long blonde wig, which where we get like I said, like that kind of yet another personality of hers, Mike, right?
And this is the part that sort of where we start veering into the Giallo sort of world, I think, in the
Mhm.
in the third act of this thing with her.
Yes.
Yeah,
Uh,
like when she
the
starts
new
putting the
guy.
wig on, it starts
Yeah.
becoming more of like a Giallo film.
Yeah, she meets a new guy, this guy named Marie, who's a French guy studying art in Italy. She starts going to see a therapist, I mean, a psychologist, in an effort to come to terms with her own deep-seated emotional trauma. She starts getting these phone calls, and she can't believe it because she thinks Alfredo is, Grossi is dead, and so do the police. So it's like, uh-oh, he's back again. Like, what is he? Is he going to try to abduct her yet again? Things seem to be going well with the Marie guy, and well, until they aren't, because they are, at what do you call it, a museum where Marie is doing his studies and his work, and he is brutally murdered. So as the viewer, you're wondering, holy shit, I guess he survived that horrific fall and that beating, right, Mike?
It seems like that's the red herring aspect of this thing, which you'll
Mhm.
find in these types of films.
Right. Now, like I said, she's seeing a therapist, and it seems like, much like in the movie Trauma, it seems like the therapist might be a bit shady and might, have an unhealthy interest in her. Um, and we're starting to wonder, well, is perhaps this psychologist to blame, or has, Grossi in fact returned to kill? While she's having a session with the psychologist, he kind of says to her, you know what? It's time you know, we realize the truth. And, like he starts saying all this stuff to her, and it's like, oh shit, the psychologist knows, you know, either he's about to reveal he's the killer, or, again, as a viewer, you're not really sure what's about to happen. Um, but as it turns out, folks, the psychologist gets killed as well by none other than Anna herself, who has unfortunately also murdered her new boyfriend Marie, right, Mike?
Right. He also he kills Marco too.
Yes, Marco, the ex-boyfriend who was also a cop, the one who she kind of, you know, peeled away from his advances after she was raped for the first time, uh, kind of finds the, you know, mutilated, bloodied body of the psychologist. Again, some fucking awesome special effects here, Mike. No?
Definitely. I mean, yeah, especially for 1996. This I
Mhm.
think had really great gore effects in it for, this type of film.
Yeah, totally, totally. Um, and then, you know, it's funny, like once you figure out or basically are shown that Anna is the killer, you know, you really feel bad for her because basically what has happened is all of that trauma and like horrific shit that she went through at the hands of Alfredo Grossi has really messed her up on top of having the Stendahl syndrome. And it just basically turned her into a raving killer, unfortunately.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of that twist,
Hmm.
that typical Giallo twist at the end.
Yes.
There's a couple, there's a red herring, where you think Rossi is actually back from the dead or, never died.
Hmm.
And yeah, the wig, the blonde wig, like that whole thing really, I don't know, I found that to be very disturbing when she put the wig on.
Yeah.
So,
Like,
something bothered me about her blonde wig.
yeah, Dario Argento should never be a platinum blonde. Let's just face it. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, she's a dark-haired gal. That's she should stay a dark-haired gal. Um, but yeah,
It's a really
it almost got
disturbing scene with the cops too. When she's out, after the climax of the film, when she's out on the street, and at some point she collapses, and all these like police officers kind of gather around her, like in this very salacious sort of scene. They're very touchy feely with her, and it has this very uncomfortable vibe to it.
mm, yes. Um, and let's talk about the Morricone music in this movie. Holy shit.
Oh,
Creepy and awesome, awesome fucking theme music, right?
that's like I think one of my favorite scores that he's done is the score for Stendahl Syndrome, actually.
Yeah, it is like it's kind of up there with Suspiria. It's just it's very
Yeah.
it's like an you know what's it called, an earworm or whatever. Like it really gets in your head, this theme music, right?
Oh yeah.
It's once you hear it, I think you'll agree, listeners. But you know, let's see. I think who did the I'm trying to find who did the special effects here, because I really want to give him his props. You know, I have a funny feeling. Let's see. Let's see. Cinematography. Also wanted to point out that it's a really beautiful looking movie, actually. It's not a cheap looking Argento movie. It's a
No.
very like kind of elegant looking film. Up Stivatali, that's what I thought. Sergio Stivatali did this visual special effects, fucking knocks it out of the park. The amazing Morricone score. Like we said earlier, I think Agia does some really, really good acting, like early on. Thomas Kretschmann is fucking awesome as a savage serial killer too, huh?
Yeah. I mean, he was great. And yeah, kind of it's like he's one of those guys that very handsome guy, but he seems like a total creep.
Yes, yes. Um, yeah, to get that revelation that he did all those fucking Marvel movies was interesting. He's in Downfall. He's in The Pianist.
Oh,
He's like a tremendous resume. He was in
Downfall, the Hitler movie, Downfall with Bruno Gantz
yeah,
as Adolf Hitler. Yeah.
yeah. He plays Herman Fegelein, who I now that I actually watched that again not too long ago, and I think I know exactly who he is now that I am, seeing his face and whatnot. Um, but yeah, this, we'd kind of hinted that we thought that this movie was without question one of the better latter era Argento movies, even though I guess you could almost argue it's like a mid-latter era Argento movie. I almost feel like is anything in the 90s on to me, because for me personally is like latter era Argento. But you know, this is it's better than Trauma, I think. And I actually was, singing Trauma's praises in the last episode, Mike.
Yeah, I put this in the upper tier of his definitely that period, because there's that I consider this as mid period,
Mhm. Right.
and within that mid period, it's definitely in the upper tier. It's definitely one of the go to films in that set.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the ending was fucking wild. I mean, after it's revealed that she's done those three killings, she's just kind of rambling, walking through the streets of Italy and kind of talking to herself. And she's kind of been like overcome by the spirit of Grossi. And yeah, the police kind of just, they don't like, throw her into a car or anything. They just kind of like, I don't know. I wouldn't even use the word grab her. They just kind of like glide her away, and they just have that creepy theme music playing, and then the credits come up. Kind of a cool, very cool Italian, Giallo ending, huh?
Oh yeah, definitely. And yeah, like I said, this is definitely one to be rewatched. This is the kind of thing you can appreciate multiple times over the years.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said, the one thing um for listeners, who have never seen it, um there are two rape scenes in this movie that are pretty intense. I mean, have I seen more intense rape scenes? Of course I have, but I would say even for Argento, I think this definitely is some of his edgiest fare. Um, but I would absolutely say this is a must-see Argento film.
Where do you rate this, Mike? What's the score you?
Okay, if I really liked Trauma a lot, okay, and gave that a 3.5, then I'm actually giving Stendahl Syndrome a 4, because I think it's a better film than Trauma on more of like the technical side. Like Trauma's a little cheaper looking, but it's just fun. Like I really enjoyed it. This is a more slicker and like, I don't know. I'll use the word. It's a fancier movie. It's a fancier film, even though it's horrific. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like it's more pro, this movie. And I give it a 4. Yeah.
Yeah, this one rates pretty high for me, man. I give it a 4.5. I mean, this
Ooh. Hmm.
I would. This is slightly below Suspiria and Inferno for me.
Interesting.
And
Interesting.
those two are my, probably my favorites, of Argento's work.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, it's definitely more of a quality looking film than Trauma, which is its prior, his prior movie. Um, I need to reevaluate Two Evil Eyes, which is of course the half and half that he did with Romero, um, which was also shot in America. It's been a long time since I've watched that. What about you?
It's been ages since I've seen that, but that might be something we should both reevaluate that and rip that as an episode, maybe.
Yes, yes. It seems like we're getting some good reactions to our Argento deep dive, though. So we will probably going to continue this. Uh, I will give a semi spoiler and say there will definitely be at least one more uh, trip to the Argento, you know, pool coming up. I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, I think the listeners will enjoy it if they've been enjoying what we've been doing thus far.
Yeah, definitely. And like I definitely want to expand, man, too. There's also been requests for doing some Fulci, and
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm also quite fond of Lucio Fulci, and I think that would be a welcome addition to this dive into Italian cinema.
No, absolutely. I mean, look, I feel like other podcasts have kind of, like they're kind of still doing Suspiria and Deep Red and Tenebrae. And I think we intentionally wanted to do this 90s stuff because I don't really see anybody doing this 90s stuff. So, and it's good. It's worth talking about and worth watching again or watching for the first time for some of the listeners, right?
I'm just curious to see how many people out there have not seen these movies before and what their initial impressions are. Because I know that there's you have to season yourself into a lot of this Giallo Italian horror, because like it's not the kind of thing you leap right into. I'm just curious to see what people's maybe someone drop us a voicemail who might have gotten into this stuff through listening to this show and check these things out for the first time. I'm really eager to hear what people have to say about it.
I would say as a rule that neither Trauma nor Stendahl should be anyone's first Argento, but I do realize that I bet there are listeners who might be younger than us, or for whatever reason, that one or two of these movies might have been their first Argento movie. So you're coming in from a very different end, right? And to me, I feel like the first thing you should see by him is either Suspiria or Deep Red. That's just my Bird. You should maybe even wait a little bit to see Bird, even though it's his first film, Bird with Crystal Plumage, which is literally in my top 5 of his films. I love that movie so much. But it shouldn't be the first thing you watch. I think, like Mike, you just made an interesting point. It's like you do kind of need to ease in to Italian cinema and ease into Argento. And I don't know, I just feel like for some people, he's the go-to guy and you're a big fucking fan and you love almost all of it. Or he's a guy that you just don't grasp and the Italian cinema thing is not your bag. And you're just kind of like, well, I'm more of an American horror person, and that's fine too. But there's a lot of younger horror fans out there now. Horror is arguably as big as it's ever been, and every day I think there's somebody discovering one of Dario's films. Mike,
I think so. And yeah, definitely let us know what you think about all this stuff for sure. I can keep the voicemails coming, keep the messages, all that stuff. We enjoy it.
Yes, and that'll put a cap on tonight's Necromaniacs. Be sure to hit the subscribe button. Be sure to tell a friend. Be sure to check out the other Horsemen. And we will see you next time.
Yeah, guys, talk to you soon.
Take care.